NCR Corporation is a leader in omnichannel solutions, turning everyday interactions with businesses into exceptional experiences. With its software, hardware, and portfolio of services, NCR enables nearly 700 million transactions daily across financial, retail, hospitality, travel, telecom, and technology industries. NCR solutions run the everyday transactions that make your life easier. NCR is headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, with about 30,000 employees and does business in 180 countries.
Hi, everybody. All right. So, yeah, I have the great pleasure of talking to you about underwater robots today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey to get there. So, is this thing going to work for me, or ready to turn myself off? Okay. So, Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution is the world's largest nonprofit research facility for anything ocean-centric and technology. And so I ended up there because I love the ocean. And from a really small kid, here I'm 6 years old, I was a little tomboy and hung out and grew up in Barnegat Bay, New Jersey, spent my summers there. And so from a very young age, I was rooted in the ocean, and I was always curious to see what lies beneath. But little did I know, you know, the big kid next door there was going to grow up to work with underwater robots, because I wasn't exposed to technology until I was in my early 20s. So now, the one thing that I really, want to tell you is, like, when I first understood that I needed to dedicate my life to working on the water was when I took my first breath underwater using scuba. And that took place in a pool in Rutgers University campus. And so that was like a transformative experience for me, where I knew that I was surrounded by chlorine and not salt water in the Atlantic Ocean, and Nemo and Dory were nowhere to be seen. And I was an hour late for varsity softball practice and wound up getting benched for 2 weeks. But it didn't matter, because in that moment, I found my passion. And the challenge there is, when you have a passion, you have to figure out what its purpose is, right? So the journey to get there took a lot of work. And I realized that this work and the determination to channel my passion into something purposeful. So how do you direct your inner, enthusiastic, yet often terrified you into something purposeful? So I went off to college trying to figure this out, and it wasn't until I was 25 and I took a journey to Antarctica on a research vessel. And so here, it's actually on my 25th birthday, looking out the window into 25 to 30-foot seas, I would spend the next 30 days learning how to use a remote underwater vehicle. And this vehicle had a really special job, and it had to take pictures of the world's most abundant animal, krill, in order to understand its overwintering behaviors under ice. So in that particular moment, it laid a new foundation for what I would be doing for the rest of my life, and I would eventually get paid to develop a technology that would allow me to play the most mathematical game in Marco Polo you've ever played. So, and that's what I'm going to be talking to you a bit about. So now, in order to get there, there's some things that you have to learn and gain, and you have to figure out what your superpowers are, right? So for me, that was a little bit of personal strength and like physical strength and intelligence, right? And so way back in the day, in 2003, I spent a lot of time working with what was called a two-man transportable vehicle. And there was this opportunity that I had to demonstrate technology to the Navy. And in this particular demonstration, there was a robot that ended up on the beach. And I'm in a small boat with a bunch of guys, and I was like, oh, we have to do something. So my instinct told me to jump out of the boat, swim over to the beach, grab the vehicle, and bring it back. And little did I know that there was a huge military vessel with an admiral and a film crew that took this picture, and that I would forever change the two-man transportable vehicle into a one-woman transportable vehicle, right? And so that was kind of a turning point for me to get a name in this world of autonomous underwater vehicles. And there's even a software engineer with a sense of humor that put some Easter eggs in our software program to do the proper math that one woman equals two men, and so on and so on. So, and then fast forward from 2003 to this summer, One of my greatest accomplishments has been able to develop a really special underwater robot that can three-dimensionally track a randomly moving animal, such as a shark or turtle. And here, I'm testifying before the Senate here in DC on innovative shark technology using these vehicles. So what are these vehicles that I keep talking about? So up top, that illustration are the Remus class of autonomous underwater vehicles. And so I work with mostly, and this is the most commercialized vehicle. It was invented in the lab that I work in Woods Hole. And that was in the mid-90s. It was commercialized in the 2000s. And most of them are torpedo-shaped, right? So we designed them to be torpedo-shaped so they can be hydrodynamic and efficient swimmers. They're really good at doing monotonous tasks like mowing the lawn to find a needle in a haystack, making bathymetry maps and things like that. So they can accurately navigate and figure out where they are using sound because radio waves don't work underwater. But what we're always doing is focusing our attention to looking at the seafloor, whether it's looking for a lost airplane or making maps or things like that. And then there are all kinds of other robots in the world that are human-occupied or have tellers, like the ROV I work with in Antarctica, and surface vehicles and aerial vehicles. And here's an example of some of that data that we see looking straight down on the seafloor. Up top is a side-scan sonar image, and so that's actually Air France Flight 447 that our Remus 6000 discovered a few years back. And then there's a three-dimensional bathymetry map of seamounts at the bottom of the ocean. And it wasn't until about 8 years ago that I decided to start pointing cameras in different directions. And so the first time I did this, we looked back and we saw all kinds of fish, small and large, following our vehicles. And we were like, wow, we're missing out on so much stuff. So this led us to an opportunity, and then funding by Discovery Channel, believe it or not, they came to us and called us and said, hey, we thought that you guys would be able to develop this technology to track a randomly moving animal like a shark. So they gave us some money to develop an algorithm to do that. And so here's what that vehicle looks like, right? So it's a basic autonomous underwater vehicle that has a propulsion system, that has batteries and a motherboard, and smaller circuitry boards and scientific sensors. And we collect a lot of data besides imagery. We could do physical, biological, chemical measurements. But what it has that's special is a camera nose, right? So we look at all different directions. And it has 4 ears, or 4 hydrophone arrays. In addition, it has a fancy algorithm that can communicate with a tag on an animal that you can see to the right there. So here is how that game works. So you have to find an animal of opportunity, right? So here's a leatherback sea turtle, and you put the tag on the animal, which is no small feat that in itself, I can assure you, even though leatherbacks do come to the surface. And then you deploy the vehicle, and you tell it the position that you tag the animal. And so the transponder, which is the tag, is always listening for a coded ping. So every 3 seconds, the vehicle interrogates the tag, and the tag responds with 2 pings. And in the first ping, the vehicle is able to determine the bearing, right, because it has those 4 ears. So it can steer towards the animal. And then it has it determines range or distance to the animal by knowing two-way sound speed. So we know that sound travels about 1,500 meters a second in water, in seawater. And so the vehicle knows when it sent the ping out, and it knows when it received the reply, so it's able to do some onboard math to determine the distance to the animal. And then there's a slightly delayed second ping, where the vehicle is able to do more onboard math to determine what the depth of the animal is. And then it does this, like I said, every 3 seconds, following and filming the animal. Now, this is really important because there's no other technology in the world that can do this, to give you fine scale resolution tracks, and then not only know where the animals are going, but what are they doing when they get there, right? So here you see the depth of the vehicle, which is blue, and then the red line is the depth of the shark. And so you see what a good job the vehicle's doing forward predicting where the animal's gonna go. And you can see it spends a lot of time down at 150 meters. And so why is it there? And if we didn't have cameras on a vehicle and following it, we wouldn't know what the animal was doing. So what I want to do now is to show you, this is a Sizzle Reel that gives you a good visualization of some of the observations that we've made studying bull sharks, white sharks, and leatherback sea turtles. down to 200 meters using a 100 meter and 600 meter vehicle. We're able to measure ascent and descent rates of the animals while they're surfacing and diving, and different predation attack mechanisms, whether they're behaving via territorial or predation parameters. We're able to see how fast they swim. That particular shark took 7 minutes before it decided to do this. So that shark went through 7 senses before it decided to attack. So first it could hear the 50 dB of the propulsion of the vehicle. It sighted it, right? So these sharks are swimming down at 150 meters and they're silhouetting their prey. And so it came up, saw it, it heard it, and it touched it with its nose, and then it tried to sniff it, and then it got fooled. The scientists believe it got fooled by the electrical signature of the vehicle into thinking it was prey. So the technology with tracking sharks and turtles are slightly different. So of course with sharks we use an intramuscular dart to attach the tag to the animal, and we use a special suction cup mechanism to put it on sea turtles. And then we have a 3-tiered release system that we design. And so the tag can actually release itself if it goes to a certain depth, or the operator can on demand send an acoustic ping to the tag, and it releases itself from the animal and floats to the surface, so we don't leave anything on the animal. And that's actually a patented technology, believe it or not. So here is sleep gliding behavior. So white sharks can't sleep like you and I do. They have to keep swimming in order to keep oxygen movement over their lungs to breathe. So this is down at 200 meters, and we witnessed several times big white sharks going into a catatonic state and resting and sleep gliding, right, by swimming into a 2-knot current with its mouth agape. So sea turtles, and particularly, so there's 7 species of sea turtles, and leatherbacks are the largest, and they've been around 110 million years. And despite them, the females being 2,000 pounds and the size of a Volkswagen Beetle, they're threatened, and that's because of human impacts like plastics. And I think here, like plastic bags in the ocean, it's really hard to tell what a plastic bag is relative to a jellyfish, because even though these leatherbacks are so huge, they sustain themselves 100% on a jellyfish diet. And jellyfish are comprised of 99.9% of water. So they have to be really efficient eaters, leatherback turtles, in order to sustain themselves. So here's a track in Cape Cod and Vineyard Sound. And what you're seeing is the red line is the bottom, the seafloor bottom, and the blue line is the track of the sea turtle. And so what you're noticing here is this dive pattern that we call yo-yo diving. And so we're like, okay, why is the turtle spending so much energy going from the surface to the seafloor up and down again? And that's because in Cape Cod, the water visibility is so bad, it's literally 4 to 6 feet of visibility, that it has to silhouette its prey just like white sharks. So it goes down to the bottom, and then it's silhouetting the jellyfish against the sky. And within a 2-hour period, the first 2-hour period of our track, we had a camera on the turtle's head, as you can see, and this particular turtle ate 120 jellyfish over 2 hours. So that's more than 1 jellyfish a minute, and it surfaced 100 times, took over 200 breaths. And so it was shoal feeding in and out of the ferry channels. And so those 100 times coming on the surface, that's 100 chances that it can get run over by a boat, right? So ship strikes are a huge issue for us, and I think we have about 14 of those a year around Cape Cod. One of the things that I want to leave you guys with, that ocean, the ocean is yet so there's so much that has to be done in terms of developing technology. So we need you guys to really get excited and see that there's so much that is yet to be done, that we know more about space than we do our own ocean, right? And so you have to find something that really resonates with you and that motivates you. And yet, what I like to say is, like, if you find something and it scares you half to death, it's probably the right thing to do, right? And it doesn't have to be like, future needs you guys. Oh, there it is. That's supposed to scare you half to death. Better late than never, I guess. So, the future needs you to find something that evokes passion inside you. And, the planet also needs your help to find new ways of studying the ocean. So between the adverse effects of climate change and harmful algal blooms, and as, the worst issue, I think, is ocean plastics, the problem we have there, deep sea drilling and ocean, there's so many issues, right? And so it's important that our planet gets your help, and now is more important than ever. And so ocean engineering and ocean science are two really growing fields, and there's a lot of opportunity there. And so despite this, it's hard to get kids really interested in STEM. So I'm here today to offer you an opportunity to email me anytime you want to ask questions and to help find how to transition yourself from where you are in school, whether it's science or engineering. And know that I studied environmental policy in college, and I never thought I'd grow up to work with underwater robots, and I don't even have an engineering degree, right? So you can actually forge a path and lay brick after brick, getting to where you need to be just by evoking your superpower, right? So everybody has a superpower, and for me, it's passion and purpose. And if you get yourself on a track where you can actually follow your dreams, you can do anything, right? And there's no way that anybody can stop your dream. So what I want to leave you with is to tell you to get out there, suit up, find your superpower, and don't ever stop asking questions.